who the fuck is my bridesmaid?
I watched that 10-part story, so you don't have to. That's Brie, and she's telling us how she kicked her bridesmaid out of her wedding. Now, they've been friends for quite some time. They actually met about 7 years ago, and the friend's name is actually Chu, but we later find out her name is Chloe, and we're actually going to go by Chloe. So back in the late 2010s, Chloe and Brie were actually living together. It was Brie's place. Chloe is actually from a very wealthy family in the UK. So even though Brie allowed it, she did find it weird that she was living in her place rent-free, utilities-free. So while Chloe and Brianna were living together, Chloe was a very heavy smoker to the point that one day she ran to the kitchen and was coughing up blood. And so obviously Brianna was very concerned. And when she asked her about it, Chloe's like, oh, this must be from the chemotherapy that I'm doing. And so Bree's like, chemo? Okay. She's like, yeah, I have breast cancer, but when I go back to the UK, I'm going to get it all sorted out. Brianna's very confused because she's like, we go clubbing all the time. We go and we drink and we smoke. I'm so confused how you're going through chemo right now. And you also apparently have breast cancer. And so in January of 2025, Chloe ends up sitting down Brianna. She was clearly distraught. She was crying, and she tells Brianna, oh my God, I have to tell you, I have breast cancer. And Brianna's looking at her like, oh my God, yeah. Playing along because Brianna's looking at her like, you already told me that, right? And so Chloe goes on to be like, yeah, I have breast cancer, as if it's new information to Brianna. Same thing as before. Chloe's like, yeah, I just need to go back to the UK and I just need to get more treatment. Brianna's like, I totally support you, no problem at all. Come to find out, Chloe actually got kicked out of her school because of not paying tuition. Brianna was the one that actually helped her land another job in Japan. All Chloe kept saying is like, how could they charge me? My mother just passed away. It was true, last year her mother did pass away. And Brianna's like, I fear this is a business. And so because Chloe got kicked out of the school, her student visa was going to expire in Japan. So she quickly needed to go find a job so that she'd be able to stay. That's what Brianna helped her do. When you work for a school in Japan, apparently you have to get a health examination. When Chloe went to go get her examination, she ended up posting her x-rays on Instagram, her own volition, and the x-rays were clear. Now, Brianna understands that you have to get mammograms and MRIs to be able to see if you have breast cancer, but she was just so confused how the x-ray was just completely clear for her chest. So it's Brianna, her husband, a few other friends. They all end up deciding to do an intervention for Chloe. Now, they had several reasons to do the intervention, but the main one actually was financial reasons. And Brianna's husband was involved because he also had lent money to Chloe and never got it back. But at the core of the intervention, they wanted to address, does Chloe have cancer? And so when they started, they're all in a circle and she's going around the bush, not really giving them a straightforward answer. So Brianna's husband, straightforward, is like, hey, do you have cancer? And this is when she starts backtracking. Chloe now claims that she actually had benign tumors and that when she goes back to the UK, she's going to get it all sorted out. Mind you, one of the people in the interventions is Chloe's best friend, right? And so the best friend's looking at her like, you never told me that. And Chloe's like, yes, I did. And they start getting into a heated back and forth about whether or not Chloe disclosed the benign tumor situation. Brianna just thought it was so weird that, Chloe shares every aspect of her life, personal or not, but when it came to this one thing, she was being very evasive and vague. So like I said, the other reason that they held the intervention was because of financial reasons. Now, Chloe was always broke, apparently. She never had money. She was always borrowing money. But the worst part about it all was that she never paid people back. It got so bad at a point that Brianna even stopped talking to Chloe for about a year. Brianna actually just recently found out that Chloe was going around and telling people that she was a bad friend. And Brianna's like, I'm not a bad friend. I was setting a boundary. I was just tired of loaning money to somebody that wasn't going to pay me back. So when they became friends again, Brianna set a hard boundary. I'm not letting you borrow any money. And at first, Chloe respected it, but sooner or later, she started asking to borrow money again. And just like every other time, Brianna had to go chasing down Chloe to get her money back. Now, her husband had loaned money to Chloe, and she told him, I'm going to give this money back in 1 week. It took her over 2 months to pay back Brianna's husband. So recently, Brianna had a friend named Mia staying with her from July to August, and on the last night that Mia was out there, they decided to go out to a karaoke bar. And so they ended up inviting everybody, and all of a sudden, Chloe ends up calling Brianna and being like, hey girl, I left my wallet at work. I work at a school, so I'm not going to have access to the school until Monday. Can I borrow X amount of money? Brianna's like, yeah, sure, I got you, no problem. So they pull up to the karaoke night. They have a great night. As they're getting ready to go and leave, Mia and Brianna are getting into the car. Chloe looks at Brianna and she's like, oh, how much cash do you have left? And basically Brianna's like, I have 50 American dollars, however much that, translates to yen. Chloe's just staring at her. And Brianna's like, no, bro, I already let you borrow money today. I'm gone. She hops into the taxi and she leaves. So now Mia has left. The next day, Brianna had plans with other friends, right? So she goes to meet up with them. All of a sudden, Chloe shows up and she obviously had to take a train there. She's buying her food, she's buying her drinks, and Brianna's just so confused. I thought you forgot your wallet. I thought you didn't have any money. How are you out and about right now? And so this just spoke to the same pattern that whenever she didn't want to pay for something, she would just lie and tell people, oh, I forgot my wallet. This wasn't the first time that she did something like that. So Monday rolls around and Brianna's like, hey, Chloe, where's my money? Chloe doesn't answer. She hits her up again on Tuesday. She's like, where's my money? And so then Chloe's like, oh, can you meet me at this random bar at 9 p.m.? I'll give you the money then. And Brianna's like, no, I'm going to be in bed at that time. And also, why would I pay money to travel 30 minutes away to get my money? No, I'm not going to do that. Brianna is like, the bar that she's at is this bar that her 57-year-old boyfriend bartends at. Apparently, she has like a $700 tab at that bar. And the boyfriend's just letting her take advantage of him. And so Brianna's like, I'm not going to meet you there. But they had plans to go to a K-Tronada concert that Friday. And so Chloe's like, I'll give it to you on that day. Friday rolls around and Brianna starts talking about, oh, I'm really not feeling well. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And Brianna's just like, even when your mom passed away, you were still out drinking and smoking and having a blast. So I don't understand what you're talking about right now. What Brianna understood was that they all bought $80 tickets to go to K-Tronada, and that was the plans for the night. Comes to find out, Chloe tells her like, oh, actually, I had a friend from the bar that was supposed to get me in for free, and they're not going anymore, so I'm not going anymore. Brianna's like, what? They're at the concert now, and Chloe's best friend's boyfriend walks up and he's like, hey, where's Chloe? You guys are like always together. And when Brianna checked her locations, that girl was at the same bar that her boyfriend bartends at. And so she's like, obviously this girl's not paying me back and not showing up to the concert either. When Brianna told the best friend's boyfriend that, he's like, what? I DJ at this place and I can't even get in for free. What is she talking about? So again, just highlighting how Chloe, she just comes up with these tall tales out of nowhere. So moving forward, Brianna tells us how apparently Chloe was supposed to have this large inheritance from her mother. Like she was supposed to become an instant millionaire. So Chloe tells her like, hey, I'm going to the UK to handle everything. She comes back. She's like, everything is handled. I will have to go back to the UK eventually and handle some of my mom's businesses. She was telling everybody that her mom had just like all these businesses, right? So Brianna's like, let me look into that now, right? They have fell out at this point. So she goes on the internet, come to find out Chloe's mom did in fact have several businesses, but they all were sold and liquidated and left the mother in debt well before the mother was even dead. There's no money. There's actually mountains and mountains of debt. Apparently, the mother actually went broke trying to support Chloe's lifestyle in Japan. When she was looking through the paperwork, she ended up seeing another name named Barbara, and she looks up that name. She's like, who's this person? They were listed as like a business investor partner. The minute Brianna puts this woman's name into the internet, a bunch of articles pop up about her being into investment fraud, and so at this point, Brianna's jaw's on the ground. Brianna also ended up finding out that Chloe is actually being sued in the UK because of her mother's debt, but that didn't make sense to Brianna because she was just like, why would your mother's debts transfer over to you? Unless they got like a co-loan together. So when she looked into the debt, she ended up finding out that it was also because Chloe never paid for the funeral. She, like we said, never paid for her tuition. A friend of Chloe's actually gave her the money that she needed to pay for her tuition so she wouldn't be expelled, and she didn't use the money for that, which is wild to Brie because she worked so hard to get a meeting with Chloe, with her dean, so that she can discuss and see if there's any possibilities for Chloe to stay in the school. And the dean pretty much said there's only one solution: the tuition has to be paid. So at this point, Brianna is realizing there's no money. There hasn't been money coming in for years. She's getting upset that Chloe is staying with another friend and using her late mother's credit cards to order Uber Eats. And at the same time, Chloe's still borrowing money, even though Brianna helped her getting a full-time job as a teacher. Brianna's like, granted, teachers don't make the most in Japan. However, it was money. Chloe actually never opened a Japanese bank account in that country, and so she was using a younger girl's account to have her work checks deposited. So Brianna ends up hitting up that friend and being like, hey, I know this is weird, but like, how much are, Chloe's checks that she's been getting deposited? She was supposed to get over like 200,000 yen a month. She was only making like 108,000 yen a month, which is like half of her salary. And when she was asked about it, she's like, oh, I barely make it to work. I call out. I'm hungover. I've even showed up to work drunk before. And so Brianna's just like, I don't understand what's wrong with this girl. Mind you, before Brianna found out how much money the girl was making, she was telling her, oh, I'm making 300,000 yen. And everybody's looking at her like, no teacher gets paid that much. They knew she was lying, just not how much. It was also wild because it's like you're living rent free, you don't pay utilities, you actually lost your place because you didn't pay your rent, and the utilities weren't even in your name. And then to make matters worse, Chloe was bringing strange men to that friend's house she was staying with, and the friend didn't even know. Brianna had to tell her, like, did you know she's bringing men to your house? And that wasn't even the worst part. Brianna tells her, Chloe has a stalker. She let the stalker into your house. I don't even understand that logic at all. I think this part was really hard for Brianna because she herself had OD'd 2 times trying to unalive herself. So when she got a message from Chloe, one of those like a year ago photos, like the memories that Instagram used to do, she's like, what about this picture? And Chloe's like, don't you remember? This was my suicide attempt. And Brianna's looking at her like, what? She's like, yeah, don't you remember when I didn't answer my phone and I turned off my locations and you and your husband came to my house to make sure I was okay? And Brianna's looking at her like, that wasn't a suicide attempt. And Chloe's like, yeah, but you had to make sure I was okay. And so Brianna at this point is just so confused. So she ends up going to another friend. She ends up going to another friend and being like, hey, did Brianna have a suicide attempt last year? And the friend's like, yeah, they said that you just like randomly showed up to her house and you helped her. And Brianna's like, what? You're lying. Brianna was shocked to find out that Chloe, who was claiming to be full Japanese, actually had a fully black father. And her whole heritage, she was like, my family, they're all Vietnamese, da 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 da. And that her dad was like Malaysian from the Caribbeans, however. And so he was like mixed. But come to find out, the father was actually fully black. This was like shocking to Brianna because she believed her. You told me you were mixed. I believed you. I'm not going to sit here and question your genes, you know? Brianna's also realizing this kind of makes sense because when she met Chloe's sibling, they looked fully black. So then Brianna's like, oh my God, does Chloe's wife know? Because apparently when Chloe went back to the UK, she got married to a woman. And the friend is like, what wife? What marriage? And Brianna says the name of the wife. And the childhood friend of Chloe's that she's talking to is like, who? That's my cousin. That's not Chloe's wife. They're just friends. And then she goes on to tell her like, Chu is not Chloe's name. Chu is her YouTube persona that she created. Chloe's her real name. And this made Brianna think about a time where she did introduce Chloe to another Vietnamese friend and was like, hey, this is my friend Chu. The Vietnamese friend looked at Bri and said, Vietnamese Chu is a surname. It's a last name. It's not a first name. At the time, Brianna kind of just like waved it off because she was like, well, my friend told me that's her name. So now Brianna ends up finding out that that girl who Chloe introduced as her younger sister was actually just a friend. When Brianna was telling another friend in Japan about everything and being like, oh my God, yeah, that girl is not Chloe's sister, the friend is like, oh, what about her brother, Rafi? And Brianna's like, brother? No, she only has sisters. And the friend's like, no, she has a brother. She sends over Rafi's Instagram to Brianna. And so Brianna messages him and was like, da 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 da. That guy responds back and he's like, yeah, I'm not her brother. I'm just a friend. All of these are kind of happening in real time. Like sometimes she's finding out things and coming on and giving like a 1-minute story and being like, you guys, I just found out that's not her real name. I just found out she's not fully Vietnamese. So at this point, Chloe has reached out to Brianna and been like, hey girl, can you please take down your TikToks? It's affecting my mental health. Like, it's affecting my job, all of this. And Brianna made it really simple. She said, prove to me that you have cancer and I'll take them down. And so now Chloe's giving her the runaround like, oh, I can't access my, healthcare stuff in the UK. And so Brianna's like, what about your stuff in Japan? You went to a clinic and got a scan out here. And she's like, oh, I'm trying to get to them, but they're far. She's like, well, they're not that far. You can call them and go pick up the information that you need. And so then Chloe's like, oh, can I show you like a booking appointment confirmation? And Brianna's like, no, that just confirms you had an appointment. It doesn't have any details about it. She's like, what about a prescription bottle? Brianna's like, maybe I'll accept a prescription bottle. Chloe just kept bringing up the x-ray screenshot and being like, well, you posted my medical records, da 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 da. And Brianna's like, look, I'll take it down. Just prove that you have cancer. I'll give you a public apology. I'll give you a private apology. I'll do whatever you want, but just prove it to me. Brianna's like, look, I know being like, show me your medical records is kind of intense, but she was my bridesmaid. She was my friend of 7 years, and she's lied to me damn near about every single thing in her life. I need proof. Brianna highlights how she is absolutely stressed out. Her wedding is in 3 weeks. She's planning everything. Now that Chloe's no longer in the wedding, another bridesmaid actually dropped out of the wedding for a completely unrelated issue. And she's just freaking out. She's like, I have so much to do, so much to book. And she thinks that I am like even slightly concerned with what she's talking about. Like, leave me alone, go away. We all know the truth about you now. I just want to like not be so stressed out. She's like, I'm literally waking up crying and vomiting because I'm so stressed out. And when people were asking Brianna, like, why did you guys stay friends for so long? And you guys even had a break at one point. She said that Chloe was basically playing to Brianna's traumas and being like, look, we have the same traumas. We've both been sexually assaulted. Like, we're both biracial, living in Japan. Like, you're the only one that understands me. They even had very similar mental illness diagnoses, which we don't know if it's true or not. But those points made Chloe feel like, oh, girl, you're the only one that understands me, that truly gets me. And so that caused them to stay close because it was almost like, honestly, a trauma bonding, right? And so now Brianna's over it. She just wants to focus on her wedding. If you guys want to follow and see if there's any more updates, feel free to go to her page. It's going to be tagged in the captions as always. Brianna girl, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. You learn in life that letting go of friends is a part of it. The better at it you get at noticing like, hey, you're not a good friend, you're not for me, and getting them out, the more peaceful, loving, and filled with joy your life will be. And I wish nothing but the best for you. I wish you and your husband a beautiful wedding. You guys tagged me in this a bunch. I wanted to make sure I got it out to you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Bye. Thanks for all the help with the mic, by the way.